The question is, what is the biggest reverse culture shock that you feel you've gone through since moving to the Netherlands?
So I don't know if this is necessarily a culture shock, but one thing I think is the weather.
Mm-hmm.
The weather to me is a culture shock because not necessarily the weather itself, but as we all know in the Netherlands, it can rain, hail, be sunny, and snow all in the same day, if not the same 3 hours. And I just think like that's crazy because what happens in the culture in the Netherlands is that people talk about the weather more. So people will be like, oh, today's a sunny day. It's such a great day. But back in Zimbabwe, when I go back, I'll wake up and the sun is nice. I'll mention that it's a sunny day and people will be like, okay. like, it's a sunny day all the time, man. Like, you don't need to talk about that. So I think that's like a culture shock. It's just like a different mood. People appreciate the sun more here. And I think the last culture shock that I want to talk about is more nuanced. You can't really see it like in your face, like the weather. But I want to talk about let me say this. Zimbabwe is a high context, indirect communication culture. Whereas the Dutch people are a low context, very direct communication culture. When I came to the Netherlands, I became very direct. So when I went back to Zimbabwe, I noticed that I was more direct and I wasn't following how the Shona culture is more indirect and there's contextual cues and you have to see the social behavior, how someone looks at you matters. You can't just approach anything or say anything to any elder or person just because you feel like saying it. You have to know who you're talking to and the level of respect you owe to them before you speak to them. Whereas here, it does not matter.
I can imagine that probably got you in a bit of trouble. Do you have any stories to share or?
I mean, I don't think I particularly have a story, but I think more so on this side in the Netherlands, I've been in shock of the directness of Dutch people.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, how can you actually say that? Like, how can you just say that so directly? They'll say something so bluntly to you, you'll actually think they're being rude, but it's just their culture.
Interesting. I can already, I'm Zimbabwean as well, so I definitely have the same thing.
Exactly.
And I know when I go back, I'm way more direct and people will kind of feel offended a bit. But yeah, thank you so much, Rafaro.